President Trump once again becoming the center of attention in a courtroom again this week through his latest indictment. Trump is again being targeted for his 2024 presidential run. He's calling it the ultimate election interference. Joining me now to discuss is Politico reporter Daniel Lippman, along with Michael Bekesha, a senior attorney at Judicial Watch. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us, and happy Father's Day to you both. Michael, I want to start off with you first. Your article in the Wall Street Journal, really eye-opening. You were the attorney in that infamous Clinton sock case back in 2012, where the judge in that case, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, actually sided with the U.S. government that it was Clinton. It's the president's sole discretion to decide what is classified, what is his personal records, and what is not. So he was able to keep those audio recordings. Judicial Watch was suing to make those public. Yet in the 49-page indictment against Trump, that's precedent. I'm not a lawyer, you are, and yet that case was not even mentioned.
Yeah, it's very surprising that this all started because of the Presidential Records Act, that somebody at Archives said they thought some records were missing from the collection that President Trump should have left with them when he left office, and because of that, they started the witch hunt. And you know, my argument in the Wall Street Journal is simply, if President Clinton was able to keep his audio tapes that he kept in his sock drawer, then President Trump should have been able to keep his tapes, because as the Justice Department and the federal court said in that case, it's up to the president to decide what records to keep and what records to take.
So in your legal opinion, do they have, I mean, so you should, if this is the case, then you should have the audio tapes from Clinton. And it also sounds like that the government had no right to seize those documents in the first place.
That's correct. It seems as though the Justice Department, you know, in the past 10 years have changed their mind on how they're going to interpret the law. And if this is the new normal, if it's now the view of the Justice Department that the president cannot designate what he wants as personal or presidential and take with him what he wants as the court decided, then absolutely we should go get copies of those Clinton audio tapes, because just yesterday, the historian that worked with President Clinton and creating those tapes said that some of the conversations on there concerned cruise missile strikes to get Osama bin Laden. And so that information would be extremely interesting for the public to hear.
Wow. Say that again. So you just learned from the historian from that 2012 case that the Clinton audio tapes certainly sounds like there was some really highly sensitive intelligence conversations that took place. And yet Clinton was able not to make that public. He said it was part of his personal record, and he kept it in his sock drawer.
That's correct. That was reporting that the Daily Caller put out yesterday.
Wow. All right, let's go now to Daniel Lippman. It's certainly possible that the Trump federal case could end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. The indictment included these images, box from the Mar-a-Lago raid, yet there were only about 100 documents taken. So, but the media, they're putting out all these boxes, making it look like Trump was hoarding and withholding all of these documents when it was actually only about 100 documents. Greg Kelly famously actually showed it on the air, just how many of those documents, and it doesn't even fill up one of those boxes. So how dangerous is it to show the American people these images? I mean, here we're clarifying why we're showing it, but in the other channels, they're not.
No, I think it's all Americans should understand what this case is about. And they're not saying that every document in those boxes in that bathroom or on that ballroom stage are classified, but I think they wanted to make a big splash. And they, if you read the indictment, it seems pretty strong, as most legal experts, and even Trump's former Attorney General, Bill Barr, he said, if even half of this was true, Trump is toast. And so these were not just personal records, not just, letters about his presidency, but they concern the leadership of France, nuclear attack plans, other highly classified information. They have Trump on audio tape talking about this. And so that's going to be hard to defend against in a jury of his peers in terms of explaining why did he keep all of these documents when he was told multiple times by the Justice Department, hey, just give them back and then you won't have any issue. And he wanted to hold on to them.
there is some dispute whether or not that actually happened, because according to Trump's team, he did give back all the documents. So, of course, we'll just have to find out what really went on there. Michael, based on the Presidential Records Act, this seems like this could have all been handled maybe, just civilly, right? And that at worst, Trump would have faced a fine for potentially mishandling, because there is no evidence that he altered this information, that he transferred it, that it was in the hands of anybody else, any of our adversaries. So why did it get to this point where they're literally charging him with espionage, that he is facing hundreds of years behind bars? It looks like they want to keep him out of the White House, and they'll do whatever it takes.
The Espionage Act charges are basically that he wasn't authorized to maintain these records after he left office. And the question that I keep wondering, and the question we don't really have an answer to, is was he authorized to continue maintaining these records? And the answer could be yes, because President Trump, as president, had the authority to authorize himself to not only have the records at that time, but also could have authorized himself to have the records later. There's no dispute whatsoever that as commander-in-chief under the Constitution, President Trump, as president, could do what he wanted with those records. The question is, did he do what was needed so that he could maintain the records? And the Clinton sock drawer case seems to suggest that a president, when he leaves office, if he takes records with him, that's the decision, and no one can second guess that. And there is a strong argument that everyone's ignoring, including his former attorney general, that while he was president, he had the authorization to do what was needed.
Daniel, we're seeing the polling numbers around Trump. They're only getting stronger. Are you surprised by this? We have about a minute left.
I'm not that surprised, because there have been many opportunities for people to jump off the Trump train since day one with his controversial statements he has made. And most people have stayed loyal, and he's even grown his support among his base. But I think the issue is the general election, he might face a tougher challenge in terms of defeating Biden, because there's some suburban voters or independents who may not want the mess of the legal mess that he faces to be, for him to have to deal with. And so I think that given the fact that none of these trials are probably going to happen until after the primaries, he's probably golden until then.
It definitely is a concern. Daniel Lippman and Michael Bekesha, thank you so much for being with us, and happy Father's Day to you both.
Thank you.